The day I set foot in the old family house, a shiver ran down my spine. Not from the autumn chill, but from a sense of foreboding that clung to the air like an unseen mist. It was a quaint, almost picturesque house nestled in a remote village. It had been left to me by an aunt I barely remembered. As I pushed open the creaky gate, I felt a strange mix of nostalgia and unease. With its peeling paint and overgrown garden, was now mine. I spent the first few days cleaning and exploring, trying to feel at home. It was during one of these exploratory missions, in the dusty, cobweb-laden attic, that I stumbled upon something extraordinary. As I was shifting an old chest, a loose floorboard caught my eye. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pried it open. There, hidden in a secret compartment, was an ancient its leather cover was cracked and worn, as if it had been hidden there for centuries. Clutching the diary, I sat down amidst the attic's clutter. The first page crackled as I opened it, revealing an elegant, archaic script. The date at the top sent a jolt through me. It was dated hundreds of years in the future. I blinked, thinking it was a mistake, a fictional journal perhaps. But as I began to read, the entries detailed mundane events, things that seemed oddly specific and yet plausible. It was bizarre, unsettling even, but I couldn't stop reading. The diary became my obsession. Night after night, I'd return to the attic, poring over its pages by the light of an old lamp. The world outside began to fade away, becoming nothing more than a distant hum. The entries I read started to shift in nature. They moved from the mundane into realms that were hard to fathom, events and phenomena that defied logic. It was as if the author had seen not just the future, but a future that was beyond human understanding. As the days passed, my fascination turned into unease. I started to feel like an intruder, spying into a world that wasn't meant for human eyes. Yet, I couldn't stop. The diary had a grip on me, its words etching into my mind, painting pictures of a future that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. I remember one night, as a storm raged outside, I read an entry describing a tempest that seemed to mirror the one lashing against the windows of the house. The coincidence sent chills down my spine. I began to wonder, was it merely a coincidence? Or was the diary, in some unfathomable way, connected to the world around me? The question haunted me, and with each passing day, my resolve to unravel the mystery of the diary deepened. Little did I know, my journey into its pages was about to take an even darker turn, one that would challenge my very perception of reality. The deeper I delved into the diary, the more the world around me began to change. Or perhaps it was my perception of it that altered. I woke up each morning with a sense of dread, anticipating the diary's next revelation. Some days, I found myself staring at the pages for hours, lost in the cryptic predictions of a future too bizarre to comprehend. As I turned each page, a pattern began to emerge. The diary wasn't just a record of future events, it seemed to be a harbinger of them. One evening, I read about a mysterious fog that enveloped a town, rendering its inhabitants lost in their own streets. The very next day, a thick fog rolled into the village, so dense that I could barely see the garden from the window. It was eerie, as if the diary had summoned it. My fascination turned into an obsession, but the most unsettling entries were those that began to mention me. At first, they were vague references, but soon, they became explicit. The diary predicted conversations I would have, clothes I would wear, even my private thoughts. It was as if the author was watching me, recording my every move. This personal intrusion was terrifying, yet I couldn't bring myself to abandon the diary. I needed to understand how it knew these things, how it could predict events with such accuracy. The thought that maybe it wasn't predicting but influencing reality began to gnaw at me. The realization hit me one night as I read an entry dated a few days ahead. It described a small fire in the village, started by a forgotten candle. The specificity of the event, the casual tone of its prediction, it was too much. I slammed the diary shut, my heart pounding. I needed answers. The following day, I ventured into the village, the first time in weeks. I wandered the streets aimlessly, feeling disconnected from the world around me. Then I saw a small crowd gathered outside a house, the charred remains of a room visible through an open window. A forgotten candle, they said. My blood ran cold. That night, back in the attic, I held the diary in my hands, a sense of dread overwhelming me. It wasn't just predicting the future, it was shaping it. And I was its unwilling accomplice. The realization was a heavy burden, and I knew then that I had to find a way to end its influence. But how do you stop something that has the power to bend reality to its will? As I sat there, lost in thought, the diary lay open on my lap. The next entry caught my eye. It was different. It spoke of something hidden, a secret about the house, about my family. The clue, perhaps, to the diary's true nature. With a newfound determination, I decided to investigate. I needed to understand the connection between the diary, the house, and my family. Maybe then I could find a way to break free from its grip. Little did I know, the secrets I was about to uncover would change everything. The following morning, with a mix of trepidation and resolve, I began my investigation into the house's history. The diary lay on my desk, its presence like a silent observer. I scoured the attic first, rummaging through old boxes and dusty files, hoping to find something that would shed light on the diary's origins. In an old, moth-eaten trunk, I found a collection of letters and photographs. They belonged to my great-grandfather, a man whose existence was merely a footnote in our family history. As I sifted through the letters, I discovered references to the house and its peculiarities. My great-grandfather wrote about strange occurrences, unexplainable noises in the night, and a feeling of being watched. It was as if the house itself was alive, aware of its inhabitants. This revelation sent a chill down my spine. The house had a history of the unexplained, long before the diary came into my possession. Inside, there were various oddities. A collection of ancient artifacts, journals filled with arcane symbols, and a map of the village with specific locations marked. But what caught my attention was a series of journal entries written by my great-grandfather. They spoke of a gateway and a keeper, terms that were cryptic yet oddly familiar. The more I read, the more I realized that these writings mirrored the diary's entries. The discovery was overwhelming. My family was connected to the diary, perhaps even responsible for its creation. I needed to understand how and why. The map seemed to be a key piece of the puzzle, with its marked locations potentially holding answers. I decided to visit these locations, starting with an old well on the outskirts of the village. According to the map, it was a site of significance. As I approached the well, an inexplicable sense of dread washed over me. The well was ancient, its stones worn by time. I peered into its depths, and for a moment, I thought I saw something move in the darkness below. Shaken, I returned to the house, my mind racing with questions. The diary, the house, my family's past, they were all pieces of a larger, more ominous puzzle. Each discovery seemed to lead to more questions, but I was determined to find the answers. That night, I pored over the diary and my great-grandfather's journals, looking for connections, for any clue that would make sense of it all. The more I read, the more I felt as if I were being drawn into a web of ancient secrets and forbidden knowledge. The diary's next entry was cryptic, speaking of a coming event that would unravel the threads of time. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was coming, it was connected to my investigation, to my probing into the past. As the night deepened, the house creaked and groaned around me, as if echoing my unrest. I knew then that I couldn't turn back. I was on a path that would lead me to the heart of the mystery, to the truth behind the diary and its terrifying predictions. But with each step forward, I could feel the darkness closing in, and I wondered if I was ready to face what lay at the end of this journey. The days that followed were a blur of obsession and fear. The diary's grip on my reality tightened, its predictions becoming increasingly ominous. I felt like a puppet, the diary pulling my strings, leading me towards an inevitable, unknown destiny. It was during a particularly restless night that I stumbled upon the apex entry in the diary, a detailed account of a cataclysmic event that seemed to mark the end of humanity. The entry described a day where the sky would turn black, the earth would shudder, and reality itself would fracture. The vividness of the description was horrifying, the words painting a picture of utter chaos and destruction. As I read, a sense of despair washed over me. Was this the future that awaited us? A future written in this accursed diary? The very thought made my hands tremble. But then, something extraordinary happened. As I sat there, consumed by fear and doubt, the world around me began to change. The walls of my room seemed to ripple and warp, the air thickening, heavy with a sense of impending doom. I could hear whispers, faint and indistinct, as if the house itself was speaking. I realized, with a jolt of terror, that the diary's apex event was beginning to manifest. The line between the diary's predictions and reality was blurring. I was witnessing the first signs of the cataclysm it had foretold. Panic set in. I had to do something, anything to prevent this apocalypse. But what could I, a mere pawn in this game of cosmic forces, do to alter the course of destiny? In a moment of desperation, I remembered the map and the journal entries from my great-grandfather. There was a connection between the diary and specific locations and the village locations that might hold the key to stopping this nightmare. I left the house, the diary tucked under my arm, and headed towards the village center. The air was electric, charged with an unseen energy. People in the streets seemed oblivious to the change, going about their lives, unaware of the impending doom. I reached the village square, where, according to the map, a ritual had been performed generations ago, a ritual connected to the gateway my great-grandfather had written about. I didn't fully understand what I was looking for, but I knew it was here, somewhere. As I searched, the whispers grew louder, the sky darkening above me. Then, I saw an ancient symbol carved into the base of the old fountain, hidden from casual view. It matched the symbols in my great-grandfather's journal. I touched the carving, and the world seemed to hold its breath. A surge of energy coursed through me, and for a moment, I felt as if I were standing at the edge of a vast chasm, peering into the unknown. The diary fell open at my feet, its pages fluttering in the wind. The apex entry glowed with an eerie light, the words shifting, rearranging themselves. I realized then that the diary was not just a record of the future, it was a tool, a key to something far greater and more terrifying than I had imagined. As the sky turned black above me, I knew that the climax of my journey had arrived. I was at the epicenter of something unimaginable, and the choices I made in the next few moments would determine the fate of reality itself. Standing in the village square, under the darkening sky, I felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility weigh upon me. The diary's pages, glowing ominously, seemed to beckon me towards a decision, a choice that held the power to alter the course of events it had predicted. I recalled the words of my great-grandfather's journal, speaking of a keeper and a gateway. It dawned on me that these were not mere fanciful notions, but roles and mechanisms critical to the balance of whatever forces the diary wielded. I realized that, unknowingly, I had become the keeper of this gateway, the guardian of a threshold between realities. My mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle. The ritual in the village square, the symbols, the diary, they were all connected to this gateway. The cataclysmic event described in the diary was not just a prediction, it was a warning, a guide to preventing a tear in the fabric of reality. With trembling hands, I picked up the diary. I had a choice. Destroy the diary and potentially alter the future, or let events unfold as written, leading to an apocalypse that would consume everything. In that moment of crisis, a memory surfaced, a phrase from the diary, one that had seemed insignificant at the time. Only when the keeper chooses to close the book will the path be altered. Closing the book. Could it be that literal? Could ending my interaction with the diary change the course of these events? It seemed too simple, yet everything pointed towards this act. I took a deep breath, my decision made. With a sense of finality, I closed the diary, severing my connection to its foreboding predictions. The glowing ceased immediately, the whispers fell silent, and the sky began to clear, the darkness receding like a nightmare upon waking. A leaf washed over me, but it was short-lived. The ground trembled beneath my feet, a sign that my actions had consequences, perhaps unintended. I had closed the gateway, but in doing so, I had unleashed something else, something that had been kept at bay by the diary's influence. In the days that followed, the world returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an experience. The diary remained closed, its secrets locked away, but the events that had predicted the strange phenomena, the unexplainable occurrences continued, albeit less frequently. It was as if, in closing the diary, I had not stopped the events, but merely changed their nature. The future remained uncertain, the balance between reality and the unknown forever altered by my decision. The village square became a place I avoided, a constant reminder of the choice I had made. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had merely postponed the inevitable, that the true resolution of this story was yet to come. As I tried to rebuild my life, to find some semblance of normalcy, the diary remained in my possession, a silent testament to the mysteries and dangers of the unknown. I knew that one day, I might have to open it again, to face whatever consequences my choice had wrought. But for now, it lay closed on my shelf, a reminder of the thin line between reality and the unimaginable, and of the responsibility that comes with knowledge beyond human understanding. The story of the diary from the attic had ended, but its echoes lingered, a whisper in the dark, a shadow at the edge of sight. The future was unwritten, and the mystery of the diary remained, a puzzle yet to be fully solved.